Okay, I'm very excited for this panel, and we had a very last-minute participant show up, which is perfect. My name's Casey. I'm really excited to be moderating this. Quick background, we'll do intros across the board, but I started my career as an engineer and was an engineer at Google for a long time, doing ML and UX work. And then most recently, I was an investment partner at Paradigm, doing early-stage investing, and then left to start my own frontier tech firm, and we're focused a lot on the intersection of AI and crypto. And I'll hand it to you.
Hey everyone, my name is Bidhan. I'm the founder of Bagel Network. My background is a mixture of machine learning and blockchain. I used to be the AI ML infra lead for Amazon Alexa. Did a lot of work there. And I used to be the ecosystem lead for a layer 1 storage protocol called Arweave. And yeah, excited to discuss AI today.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Sahara AI. Before starting Sahara last year, which we're building for over a year, I'm an associate professor at USC, computer science department, working on AI and NLP for almost like 7 years. So really the intriguing things for me to step into using blockchains and all these like tools of Web3 to power AI is to looking at the sort of broken AI economy that we have in the traditional Web2 community, where the participants of AI talk, for example, the data contributors of Wikipedia, who were later, the data was used to train ChatGPT, wasn't really properly rewarded. So with Sahara AI, we are doing a utility AI blockchain platform that really trying to enable provenance and attribution and monetizations of the AI access, including data sets and model, with high performance, privacy, and security.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ZeroG. ZeroG is the first modular AI chain. We help launch high-performance DApps through the fastest programmable data availability layer in existence today. I started my career at Microsoft as an engineer and technical product manager, and then switched over to the business side, worked for a Bain & Company, Bridgewater Associates, and then during graduate school, scaled my first Web2 company to become a unicorn and a top YC company. And we used AI a lot for data cleaning, data labeling, and various data extraction issues. And so really excited to now be at the intersection of AI and Web3.
Awesome. Okay, that was a lot of info on the companies. I actually just want to do one more round. Can you say your company name and the one-liner of what you do so everybody knows?
Sure. ZeroG Labs, we're the first modular AI chain.
So Sahara AI is democratized scaling laws and trying to build a dune of intelligence that's owned by you.
Bagel Network is the first privacy-preserving machine learning protocol for humans and agents.
Okay, great. All right, so with that, I think this panel is titled Why AI Needs Web3. So let's just start there and discuss that. So why do we feel AI really does need Web3 today? Who wants to take a first stab?
I can go first. I'll probably have the strongest opinion on the panel. I'll just say that everything AI should be on-chain. And my thinking around that is that our mission is to make AI a public good. And so how do we make something a public good if a bunch of companies are controlling closed source models where you have no idea what the training data was with the model, what the weights of the model are, what kind of decisions are made with the model, what's being changed at any point in time. And so very much AI needs Web3 if we want to have a truly open AI, pun intended, where, for example, the AI stack is essentially anything from data creation to data labeling to data storage to model training to inference to then actually or fine-tuning and to then actually the AI dApps. And so if everything is fully on-chain, you have complete understanding of the provenance, you have complete understanding of the verification, the incentive schemes that were used, who is actually contributing to this data, and then you have complete verification of all of this. And so that's something when you think 5 to 15 years out, if you have AI models running production system, administrative systems, logistics systems, I would want to know exactly what went into that model and what decisions the model is making at any point in time. So let's put models into a container where it's always aligned and they can't cheat. And so that's very much why AI needs Web3.
Yeah, I'm a pragmatic person, so I'm actually gonna take a little bit different view from Michael. So I don't think we're gonna push the entire AI stack on chain, which is, I don't think it's actually scalable or economically feasible in short term or even in long term. I feel like it's really challenging. So my take on where blockchain really have the synergy with AI is mainly on attribution, ownership, and provenance. And by saying that, I basically imply that the current AI economy is broken, right? I was giving an example like Wikipedia, GitHub, Reddit, or Hugging Face, which they have sort of been struggling monetizing themselves. But they are hugely important and sort of important resource for building things like ChatGPT by OpenAI. But the whole upstream flow of contribution of data points, data sets, recipes for building model, all the know-hows of tweaking the model, wasn't properly attributed and rewarded by the current AI stack. We only see the majority of these tech giants, which are the last sort of application builders of this AI, they got to have the most revenue share rather than giving them back to all of the upstream contributor. And I see that's pretty broken. And I think the right way to do it is to think about what are the key metadata, what are the key attributes of the data sets and model can be pushed on chain so you can sort of have a sort of a verifiable ownership or true ownership, and then you can use that to do a provenance and attributions down the road for all of the participants of the AI economy. Yeah.
So just on that point, so data provenance, what do you think, or what does it look like in even just a year from now? Because it's such a broken system, and it's going to take so much work because the entire internet is already built without provenance and attribution. And so what's the master plan of Sahara to fix that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think provenance is a really long-term sort of a goal, technically speaking. Right now, my view of provenance in terms of implementation, there's two things, right? There's a coarse-grained provenance where if someone take a model or data sets out of their pocket and then say, hey, this is Casey's model or data sets, how could I verify that? How could I prove it? Or we call it auditing, right? There should be a sort of a proof of ownership or integrity sort of mechanisms be developed combined with the blockchains that are able to say, hey, these data sets has been touched by me, Sean, and Casey, and someone else. And so when these data sets was used to train a model that later be monetized, those profits should be attributed back to this couple person. And then in terms of how much each of us should take that profit sharing, that's probably have to be community governance for now, because the second part of the provenance, which is the fine-grained provenance, is really hard. For that, I was talking about for each training data points that was used to train a model, when this model was making predictions for a particular query or prompt, right, how the attribution should go back to each of the training data points and therefore their owner. This is basically in machine learning, people have been using inference function to do that, which has the computational cost, which is like 5x of the inference cost, which is totally not usable, right?
So I love this because I think personally one of the best use cases of crypto is financialization and creating markets around digital assets. And ML is naturally digital. But I guess I'm curious from your perspective, why hasn't it materialized yet? Or how are you doing in terms of product market fit so far? Like, are people actually using the product?
Using the which product? Sorry.
The data provenance. Like, can you talk about, because you have some really big names, right, that were working with you?
I just feel like the infrastructure support is not there yet. That's the problem. That's what Sahara AI is building. Because right now, if you look at the entire Web2 sort of a landscape, most of the stuff are centralized. You don't have the transparency and immutable records about who has touched what data sets and how the data sets was used later and how much money the data set made and and then you can do a backward pass to get the things back to everyone. That infrastructure doesn't support. So really, I think the opportunity right now for the AI interest party within the Web3 community is to think about how to build this provenance and attribution infrastructure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's some examples of Grass, for example, creating this financialization layer where it's pretty clear what the attribution is. Somebody gets tokens, contributes data to it. So at least in some cases, it should be pretty straightforward to attribute it. So if most of data generation ends up, or all of it ends up being on chain like this, then it would be a pretty simple world, but it's not like that, unfortunately. So there's quite a few infrastructure pieces that need to be built. And happy to disagree with Sean that everything can be built on chain, but we can get into that as well.
I guess it's my turn to talk about why AI needs Web3. So I actually agree with both of the folks here that AI can be on-chain and can be off-chain. One thing we believe is that all of those things, like putting AI on-chain and off-chain, are not going to be done by humans. They're going to be done by autonomous agents. And it's very soon. Like, we think of it like very futuristic. It's going to be here 12 to 24 months from now. So our thesis is that there will be billions of online agents. They're taking a lot of different kind of actions. They're buying stuff, they're selling stuff, they're doing prediction markets, they're doing stock markets, they're doing trading, all of those things. And they would like to use the most frictionless infrastructure for everything. If they're trying to send money, they're going to use the blockchain to send money because they don't have to wait a couple of days for it to settle. The same way, if they're doing AI, if they're doing machine learning, they're not going to go somewhere where they have to sign up, wait for being KYC'd so that they are allowed to use whatever they want to do. They're going to do machine learning in a permissionless way. And that's the thesis we're building from, that AI needs Web3 because Web3 enables permissionlessness. And that's the least amount of friction.
Okay. So behind the scenes, we were having a pretty controversial conversation. And I want to know if Sean would like to share a controversial opinion here.
Yeah, I think we talk about too many controversial things. So I would just like do my high-level summarization of what's my view of decentralized AI status quo, right? So if you look at the key recipe of AI, it's three things, right? Data, model, and compute, right? And then we can go through these three things, right? When we started brainstorming what's the founding thesis for Sahara AI, we just look at these three pieces of things and then trying to debate about where blockchains fits in the most natural and sort of a seamless way. With the first thing we reject is the compute, which I think the first thing we were pretty controversial. Right? I was basically thinking that the idea of building a war network of GPUs is a really sort of tricky, and I don't think it's a very promising idea because I think the power of this scaling law really comes from a very streamlined and centralized cloud, let's say NVIDIA, AWS, Azure, right? That make it possible that you can train with 10,000 H100 in 2 weeks to produce a model like Llama 3, for example. And if you really have to split this out to like your cell phone and his laptop and the other guy's sort of a little GPU desktop and trying to use the internet, connect these small pieces together and call it a network of GPU compute that is spare and can be taken advantage of, I don't think that's usable at all for training any usable AI model. Of course, you can use that to run some tiny little toy model, but that's not a story of the really usable AI, I would say. So that's about a compute, right? And then we look at the model. Model is tricky because it has too much know-how that required to build a reasonable architecture and know the hyperparameter configuration and so on. So I don't think it makes sense to have a pretty decentralized or crowdsourced way to say, hey, let's come up a new architecture and a recipe that is better than Llama 3 and Transformer. I think that's kind of really tricky. So really about the model part, I think there may be something to do with trustless training of the model, and then there's something to do with trustless or verification of model inferences that build the trust on a protocol. And I think now when look at the last piece of data, that's where Sahara AI started. Right? We actually started by building a dApp that trying to create a decentralized data marketplace, and then you can imagine that's a decentralized version of Scale AI, if I put it simply. But really, everyone have their own expertise and culture background and language background that can come in to contribute to a public good data set and become the owner and shareholder of that data set. Think about if we redo Wikipedia, where now everyone have ownership on Wikipedia, and they got paid by OpenAI. That's a much better world if we can redo that. Yeah.
Just to make the panel fun, I'm going to disagree on the compute part. So Google just released a paper where you can do asynchronous batching, and you could actually create large models utilizing different batches. And so it's a step forward into truly doing on-chain training of models as well. Yes, it still requires a lot of compute, and it's not going to be...
Sorry, what did the paper?
I don't know the actual title of it, but I can find it after the panel. It just was literally just recently released. Jason, our team, flagged it for me. He's our head of AI, and so I'll give it to you after. But essentially, you can't do it on a gaming PC and stringing a bunch of them together. It'll still have to be like larger scale type of installations, but it's a move in the right direction. And it's not all rosy on the centralized side either. If you do a training run, then a bunch of graphic cards fail, then you have to like redo the run anyways. And so why not move into that direction as well? And then on the model side, there's also a move on the AI side towards modular AI. So instead of saying bigger models are better, what if you have an LLM middleware and a lot of smaller specialized models that come together and to create a model? And so those can be trained in a different way. And then as an example of how to outcompete, I think MyShell AI actually created a model that performed better than Llama 2 with very little resources. I forgot exactly what it was, but maybe like 100K to train this model. And so those are just some examples that I can think of.
I'd like to say I also disagree with Sean a little bit on this one. So the decentralization already exists. Look at any big startup. They train their model a little bit on AWS. They train their model a little bit on Google Cloud. They kind of like distributed the workload. So for us, is that like decentralization is not fast enough. It's not an excuse for us to not do it. We have to figure out how to make it work. So Michael gave an example how it might work for training. I'll give an example how it might work for inferences. How to make inference really fast so that it really works, even if there's a latency problem, right? I was talking to a bunch of researchers in Silicon Valley. They have been researching burning the weights of a model directly in the GPUs. And that reduces the overhead of compute by 100x, right? So there are like a lot of ways we can figure out like how to make it work. So our mental model is dependent on what's possible today. We should think about like what's going to be possible in a year, what's going to be possible in a couple of years. Since ChatGPT was released like more than a year ago, all innovation have just accelerated massively, and it's going to get accelerated more. So we don't know what's possible in a year from now. We can say like, yeah, it's not possible right now, but the latency, the GPU cost, all of them will come down 100x, 1000x very soon, which will make the decentralization possible. And what's the benefit of that is that we can actually run models, train models in a crowdsourced way. So it's knowledge. So right now the bottleneck is that like it's a company who are training. Some people have some knowledge about how to train a certain kind of model, but we can never crowdsource it because that model doesn't exist. Web3 enables us. Decentralization enables us to do that.
Okay. On the Bagel front, though, while we're here, I would like to talk about your user base as well. And specifically, rumors on the street is that you have a lot of AI native people that are using the protocol. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So we're still in closed beta, but we have been fortunate to have good partnerships with mainstream artificial intelligence frameworks. Some of them are like very well known among developer community, like LangChain and Llama Index. We work with them directly, and we have more than 25,000 developers use our protocol at least once.
5,000?
25.
25,000?
Yeah. And we're getting like more than 500,000 API calls per week at this moment.
And what's the most popular use case of the developers today?
Inference data for now. So they want to generate inferences on additional information. So they use Bagel API to do so.
And it's primarily because of the data you have behind, or is it just you're just doing inference?
right now, we're not even allowing people to use each other's data. They're bringing their own data.
Okay.
And they're using the Bagel infrastructure to be able to generate inference on top of that.
Okay, and then the GPUs in the back, are they data centers, or where do they come from?
Multiple. We have partners. For example, one of our backers are Filecoin. So we're working with them. They have like massive data centers and a lot of GPUs. We're also working with other GPU network, both decentralized and centralized. They have a lot of GPUs they want users for. We're working with them and increasing their utilization rate. So there are multiple ways we gather them together.
Okay, and then you also mentioned this kind of thesis that AI agents are going to become your most popular user in the future.
Yeah.
And I want to talk just more generally about what you're seeing in AI agents, what everybody on the panel thinks about them, in terms of, Michael, you said the whole idea of putting everything on chain, and what of the AI agent actually needs to go on chain and what doesn't. And for people who aren't familiar with AI agents, they're really just AI apps that are doing autonomous tasks.
So the definition of AI agents, I'll go first because we have very strong opinion about AI agents.
It's in your Twitter bio.
Yeah, exactly. We build our product for agents because we believe that that's going to be the majority user base for us and for any online business in the world. It can be on-chain or off-chain, but as long as you're online, it might be some Shopify marketplace. Even then, your majority user base are going to be AI agents. And what is AI agents in general? Like nowadays, they're just some apps built on top of like some LLMs hosted by OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever. But my vision for AI agents are every AI agent are going to be a foundation model of its own. And each of them will have their different privacy level, like their own proprietary data that they generate themselves online through the transactions they make. And yeah, we're basically sold on chain. Like any business, we're a little bit early on that, like being like 100% into AI agents, but we were a little bit early on crypto and AI intersection as well. Like when we started building, it was like end of 2022, early 2023. People were like, what is this crypto and AI thing? Like, are you just putting two words together? It doesn't make sense. And now it's getting more popularity. Same way, like AI agents being the majority user base for all kind of business as protocol. It's not the consensus at the moment, but we're going to get there soon, very soon.
Yeah, I guess I would agree with that. I just add the dimension of control the AI agent has. If it's an AI agent that's just doing some shopping for you and has maybe access to 200 USDC in your wallet, like run it on your phone, an edge device. But if it's an AI agent that can actually control an entire traffic system, like I would want that to be fully on-chain. Just again, to have full visibility, full verification of everything that the AI agent is doing and everything that went into the creation of the model that's actually running those agents. So that's the dimension that I'd add.
Okay. A new category that I'm seeing a lot of is intent LLMs, where we have an intent on chain, you utilize an LLM to automate it via an agent. And I'm personally pretty bearish on this because I feel that we're first going to see agents in e-commerce or things that have lower stakes than with finance. But I don't know if anybody has a different opinion about that category.
So I actually think we already have a lot of agents in finance, in centralized finance. Like most of the trading is algorithmic. Like algorithms are running all the trades.
But not with non-deterministic LLMs.
Yeah, so the algorithms are deterministic. LLMs are not deterministic.
Right.
And I also don't think LLMs are going to do the trading as well. Large language models are better at generating language. But that doesn't mean they're the best at trading. We're just using them nowadays for every use case because it's easier to do. OpenAI made an API which everyone can use. But they're not the best for a lot of stuff. For statistical stuff, you have to do statistical model, which doesn't even speak in human language. So I agree with you that LLMs large language models are not going to be the one who will be doing the financial trading, but large models are going to do it. It can be LSM, like large statistical model, right? So, and a lot of that happen already right now. The algorithms are deterministic. The models are a little bit less deterministic. But that also gives them superpower. They can learn new things as they go. They can learn instantly, and they can execute the trades better. Financial use case, I see it happening sooner than the other ones. Yeah, that's also based on some of the conversations and demand we have seen on the Bagel Network in general. So.
Yeah. I want to share a little bit about my view of agent, because you guys have been talking about agent, right? So I think agent is different from large language model. Currently, I think my view of agent is basically eventually going to be your personal replica, your digital twin, right? Writing reports for you 24/7, talking to other people or other people's agents, right? Eventually, I think we're going to have a pretty scary situation where you don't need any marketplace because there's no information gaps because everyone's agent is talking to other people's agent instantly, 24/7. You got all the information except that if you don't want to share your information, right? So to get to that kind of stage, I think what the agent technical need to be done is it has to have the language capability found backed by large language model, but they also need a lot of like proprietary data, right? Basically your private knowledge vault or your private knowledge bases that store all your DMs and text messages, emails, pictures, and so on. And then you also have a sort of working memory, then the language model will interact with the database and working memory to take actions. And you also have to have a sort of reward mechanisms for these actions taken so you can choose the best course of actions to execute, right? So under this kind of a broad architecture, if you ask me where would decentralizations and blockchains play a role here, I think there's two parts, right? Number one is the decentralizations is going to be providing security, privacy protections for user data, right? If I'm using, say, Llama 3 as the background language model, how could I have a good personal replica without sharing my personal proprietary data to a cloud that hosts, a centralized cloud that hosts Llama 3, right? That, I think that's where federated learning, some sort of distributed machine learning inference and training pipelines will play a role. Plus, you can apply maybe differential privacy, which is empirically strong, and you can even try to push for multi-party computation to enforce stronger encryption theoretical guarantee, right? Those are all could happen. I think that's there. That's technically, how can you make it privacy protected, secure, sort of an agent framework? And then if you have to talk about blockchain, I think we have to go back to all of the things about provenance and ownership, right? If, let's say, I'm going to call your proprietary knowledge bases to collaborate with my own agent so that I can make a more informed decision on something, or I can make a better technical reports about a Web3 project, then I have to pay for API access to your proprietary knowledge bases. And I mean, the jailbreaking and all the other things are a separate discussion. But I think that we need the infrastructure so that our agents or our knowledge bases can collaborate with provenance and proper attribution. And I think blockchain will play a pretty critical role to building towards that. Yeah.
For the first, you mentioned doing privacy preserving and thinking about that. Why not just go local, though? Because right now, with the advancements in hardware, it's going to be
too expensive, right?
It's too expensive from what capacity?
Like, I don't think, if you only think about pushing a 7 billion model to your local devices, that's totally doable nowadays if you have a pretty strong smartphone. But you're not going to enjoy the power of 400 billion Llama 3, which is going to be open source in a few months, right? So you want to take a best of both worlds. I think that's where you want to do a sort of decentralization or federated.
Yeah, but with quantization, I feel like it's getting better, and I feel that.
But I don't think we can push a 400 billion model to your.
No. I mean,
devices,
definitely
right?
not. But I still think that there's going to be a lot of use cases where local, like edge compute, makes a ton of sense.
Oh yeah, there's no conflict about what you said, right? Federated learning basically is saying like, if I have a LoRa or like LoRa adapter module on my edge devices, and I have a backbone model, say Llama 3 on the far cloud,
Yeah.
As long as the communication between the two is streamlined, low latency, I can make inferences.
And also, I'd like to say something here. It's probably controversial, kind of, that the local training is actually not as private as you think. We have written a detailed blog post about that on our blog, like blog.bagel.net, if anyone's interested in looking into it. But when we say that we want local training, like federated learning is an example of that. You actually send the model where the data is, right? And then you're actually sacrificing privacy of the model itself, both of the model algorithm and the weights. What federated learning do is that you send the model to different locations, they generate some weights, they bring them together, then you bring the weights together and create like an aggregated weight of that. So all the privacy of the model owner is sacrificed. The data owner, yeah, they have their privacy in theory, even though there have been studies where it has been proved that the data is leaked a lot if you do federated learning. There are a lot of research papers on that as well. So we were trying to go really deep in local training. It's just not as private as we think it is.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I can see that also with Olama, for example, because they're doing the quantization, they technically, at one point, could have access to your logs, even though you're running it locally on your machine.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case anymore. I think they fixed that because enough of the Discord complained, but I hear that.
Yeah. And also, there's other privacy-preserving solutions we use in Web3, like ZK, for example. But in that also have some problem. In ZK, you send the data where the model is. So that is the reverse problem of you reveal the data, but the model owner is kind of preserving their privacy to some extent.
And while we're on this, maybe HFE, do you want to comment on if you genuinely think that's going to be possible?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, fully homomorphic encryption. Do you think that's going to be?
I think we're too far away from that.
Why do you think we're seeing so many startups retry this right now?
I think we definitely try. I mean, this to me is really.
Or maybe can you explain to the audience what that is before we dive?
Yeah. So Casey was talking about homomorphic encryption or fully homomorphic encryption, which is, I think the basic idea is you can make your input and also output entirely encrypted, but you can just enjoy the computation logics or the sort of AI logics of any language models or foundational model, right, during training or inferences without exposing any of your proprietary information or privacy. And I think that's the dream I want to have, because if we got this today, there's many of the problem we're discussing just now would just easily be resolved. And I think the current...
Like what?
For example, we don't have to think about other type of privacy protection methods like differential privacy or multi-party computation. We can just use a very efficient FHE kind of approach, all right? And yeah, so that's many about privacy protection and data security. And I think right now the problem is homomorphic encryption doesn't work for anything complex than a linear classifier. And if you know about transformer, is basically dozens of layers of nonlinear and linear layers stacked together. So if you have to design a homomorphic encryption technique for that, it's totally intractable in terms of computation. It's overly slow. So I think that's why there's tens of billions of dollars of investment into projects doing that, right? And I'm really looking forward for the results, but I don't think we can enjoy any usable results in a few years.
Yeah, some of my friends that are working on it in the Web3 field think it's 2 years away, and then my friends in the AI field think it's 10 years away, and so maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, but one thing is definitely clear, what Sean mentioned is the computational requirements are significantly higher. So my friends who are working on it, they say it's 1,000x. So if today, for example, you're trying to run some type of high-frequency DeFi application or on-chain order books, you need a data availability speed of about 3 megabytes per second. With FHE, multiply that times 1,000. And so the type of data availability throughput that you need for that is in the gigabytes, not in the megabytes, what most people are providing today. And so those are some of the things that we're fixing and are also future-proofing the system so that when FHE actually becomes a reality, it is actually even feasible to run on-chain as well.
Okay.
I'd like to say that I think, or we think at Bagel Network, FHE is the future for both machine learning and blockchain. And when I say future, that's the keyword, that's the future. That's not the present. Like, it cannot be done at the moment. Like for our another a very short version of FHE definition is that you basically do computation of encrypted data and get the same result of doing the computation of raw data. That's FHE. And that's the end goal for any kind of privacy. When it works, everything will move to FHE. Machine learning will move to FHE. Web3 will move to FHE. But right now, it is actually very slow, as Sean and Michael mentioned. And, but we're getting there. I actually think all the acceleration we're talking about, that's going to happen way sooner. Again, like the mental model we have is that there's like 100 researchers, they're doing research on accelerating FHE that will take them 10 years. I don't think that mental model apply anymore. Someone, and there are people I actually know who are doing that, are going to train a foundation model who is a FHE researcher. And that AI model is going to figure out how to accelerate the FHE chips that we need for that. Like the even most recent chips made by NVIDIA, they were not designed by humans. They were designed by an AI which was developed inside NVIDIA. If they would just relied on the human capital they have, it would have taken like another decade to get to where they are right now. As I said, like everything got accelerated, our mental model for everything. If our mental model for a timeline of FHE getting accelerated was 10 years, that got shrunk by a lot. So it is the future. It's not the present, I agree. But it's not far in the future. It's near term.
Okay. All right, well, we are coming up on time. I think let's wrap with doing predictions by end of year, so not that far in advance, in the intersection of crypto and AI.
I can start first.
In a probability, too, in terms of how confident you are will materialize.
I think end of year, we will see a lot of economic layers that are proposed by this Web3 community. Some will fail, some will work to some extent. And my guess is the actual working AI products generated by the protocols will be relatively limited. That's my view. I mean, they're going to take much longer to explain why. But we, as Sahara AI, are really leaning towards build AI utility, sort of a protocol, meaning that the best way to quantify your success is to see whether the AI builders are using them to actually build the AI products that are going to be monetized and sell. And I think we're going to see some success, promising success, but many of the protocols are going to have pretty hard time proving that.
Not in the crypto space, and I'll get to that in a second, but I'm super excited about full self-driving mode from Tesla. Major breakthrough. Sorry, not in the Web3 space, but maybe we can bring that to the Web3 space over time. But Web3 meets AI, specifically just excited about like agent marketplaces, decentralized vector databases, like deepfake provenance, those types of things. I think seems like it could be very reasonable to figure all of that out end of the year.
Confidence level.
80%.
Okay.
So I'd say I have two predictions, one more related to the crypto ecosystem and one less related to the crypto ecosystem. So the first one is that I think 90% of the on-chain trading are going to be done by agents, autonomous agents, and I'm 90% confident about that. And the non-crypto stuff is that, I actually forgot what I was going to say, but I'll pass on that.
You'll pass?
Moment. Yeah.
My prediction is that, okay, I like all of yours. My prediction is that the LLM craze falls down a bit and linear models come back in vogue. And we start hearing more things like, just regular models that people have kind of forgotten about that are actually baked into a lot of our products and perhaps less consumer focused, but have totally changed all of technology.
fair. Actually, remember what I was going to make the other prediction? I think we will start having discussions about discrimination between artificial and human intelligence. So right now, everyone say like, hey, we don't want to get a text which was, publish a text which was generated by AI, or somehow AI-generated content is fake. I think it's going to get real very soon, where the AI models are going to be as intelligent as humans. And then we will start discussing, like, does it even make sense to discriminate? Or is it discrimination at all? Like,
Right.
intelligence is intelligence. Like, WorldCoin recently launched a chain where humans get, like, less gas fees. That's on-chain discrimination. And we're going to discuss, like, does it actually make sense or not? We would want all kind of intelligence to have equal rights, if you may.
Okay, I think that's a great place to end. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll wrap.